Okay, David Boone grew up in the heart of Cleveland and completed the Minds Matter program, got into Harvard for engineering, won a BET Changemaker Award, landed the dream job at Microsoft. How do you top that? You leave and you start an ad tech company. He's fresh off his New York Accelerator program, so he's going to tell us about that, his latest fundraise for his ed tech startup, Blend Ed. Welcome, David. And Toshi, undeterred by COVID, Toshi Ayo Ario is a 2017 UPenn graduate from Minds Matter of Los Angeles chapter. Worked in finance and strategy for Disney Parks once COVID hit. With the parks closed, Toshi had a unique opportunity to build her skills further, and that's exactly what she did. She enrolled in coding class at University of Southern California, just kept going. Through that class, she won a national coding competition and created a product which was featured in Fortune.com. Amazing. This work served as the basis for her current startup, You Include, which she's going to tell us about today. Welcome, Toshi. Okay, I'm going to go around the horn in that same order. Ask each of our three entrepreneurs, first of all, the Minds Matter portion, the Minds Matter journey. For the three of you, each of you one at a time, Ebony first, how did Minds Matter find you? And what did you remember most about the skills learned during the program? So a bit of a Minds Matter review for each of you. Ebony, please go first.
Thanks. So when I was in, I think, the 9th grade, the guidance counselor, I think, I don't remember,
Long time ago,
recommended me and a few other people for the program, and only 2 of us went. And I was one of the sophomores who got in instead of at junior year. So I got to be in Minds Matter for 3 whole years, which was really nice. And what I remember the most is my summer programs. First, I went to St. George's School in Rhode Island. And the second one, I went to Johns Hopkins. And that's where I decided that that's where I wanted to go. And so I did. Yeah.
And was there a skill, the Minds Matter used to have a list of sort of things we tried to teach, and we try to, back then, customize it to the needs of our students, the wants of our students, of our mentees. Was there a particular skill set or lesson that Minds Matter was able to impart on you? I mean, I think you had momentum on your own, clearly, but what did Minds Matter help with that time?
I'm not sure. I think when I was in Minds Matter, I wanted to be a computer scientist. Turns out I'm really bad at programming. So that was short-lived.
Okay, I guess learning what you're not good at is an important one. Dave, I'm going to pass it to you. How did Minds Matter find you? And were there skill sets or lessons in Minds Matter that resonated? Clearly something worked.
Yeah, I mean, a lot worked. It's one of the few organizations that no matter what, I will always say good things about. It's funny, Minds Matter found me because I was one of the miscreants who wanted to skip class. So I had absolutely no idea what Minds Matter was or why I would want to attend Minds Matter. But when I was literally like looking to skip class, I was caught in the hallway and my principal was like, hey, you should go and listen to this presentation from these folks at Minds Matter. And when I went to listen, they explained the program and what it offered. And I was like, more testing, whatever. But then the part that really got me was the summer programs. And when they explained that they would pay for me to go to a summer program, it immediately clicked in my head that it would be an opportunity for me to go to a summer program at MIT, which I'd heard about this program through a book I'd read called A Hope in the Unseen. And it was just a book that I really identified with in terms of the guy's Cedric Jennings story and like how he came to his success. And I had sort of in my head determined that I wanted to go to MIT. Didn't know how I was going to get there, but I sort of set the goal, and then Minds Matter became the way for me to reach that goal. And so, I went from absolutely no interest in Minds Matter because it sounded like a bunch of test prep, and I was like, I don't want to do that, to, oh, I have to do Minds Matter because I have to go to MITES. Like, there's nothing else more important to me than getting into MITES because it worked for Cedric. And so more than anything else, that's why I wanted to get into mites. And then it turns out that the thing that was most valuable and important was the test prep. I did end up going to mites, and I did end up meeting this incredible group of individuals who are still my friends to this day. We ended up going to many of the same schools or nearby. And so I'm very grateful that I had a chance to go to that summer program. But also, that summer program would have meant very little if I didn't have the test scores and grades and so forth to get into Harvard later on. And so I would say for me, the test prep was probably the highest value add, because of course my parents couldn't afford it if I were trying to get it some other way.
Leanne, that sounds like a classic bait and switch. You give them access to MIT, and then you zip in the test prep. Let's keep that in mind in our future marketing. Toshi, you're last. How did Minds Matter get to you, and what were some of the skill sets that you enjoyed learning at Minds Matter, the lessons? Go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. So Minds Matter found me through a school presentation. So I had an interesting Minds Matter experience in that I was part of the first class of Minds Matter Los Angeles. And it's funny because we actually call ourselves the guinea pigs, because we were kind of like the first group of people that the organization tested in Los Angeles, and it turned out to be really great for us. But someone from the organization came to make a presentation at my school. And like many of you here, I was definitely a very ambitious young lady. I had a goal, and my goal was actually to attend the University of Pennsylvania. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I knew that like I needed to go to the school. And Minds Matter sounded like it had would provide me with the resources and the opportunities to somehow get there, whether that was through test prep or through exposure to other universities on the East Coast that would make me more competitive for college. Um, and so when I heard the presentation, I knew that I needed to apply, and I knew that I needed to get into the organization, and I was lucky enough to do so. Um, I definitely had a very auspicious Minds Matter experience in that I was fortunate enough to attend Brown University for one of my summer programs, and then Yale for the other summer program. And Brown is where I recognized that I did not want to be a doctor. So I'm very thankful to Minds Matter for um, giving me the opportunity to learn that early on. And Yale is when I realized that there are so many different paths to social impact. The program I did was about social entrepreneurship, and I've always been an impact driven person. And so um, I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to make an impact, but that program exposed me to all of the different paths I can take to impact and to making conditions better for the communities that I care about. But I think the most memorable part of my Minds Matter experience was definitely the people. I mean, pretty much everyone I came in contact with was just incredible. I had the most dedicated and steadfast mentors who were so dedicated to my success. To give you an example, I was a huge procrastinator in high school, and I was submitting my applications literally at the 11th hour on New Year's Eve. And one of my mentors was on the phone with me for like 3 hours, making sure that I got all of my applications in on New Year's Eve. So I I'm just so thankful for all the volunteers, the mentors I had that were just so dedicated to my success, who definitely made it possible for me to be here today.
That's a great endorsement. Again, Leanne, let's put that on. Let's put those quotes on some of our marketing material. The next stop was college. The three of you went to very famous, very mainstream colleges. Hopkins, Harvard, Penn. Those are places for people to join the establishment. I say that as a Harvard graduate myself. Where during that college career did you see seeds of your entrepreneurial desire? Because those colleges really aren't often places for that. They're places that go on to large consulting firms or large iBanks or whatever. Or did it not happen in college? So if there was a sign in college that you're an entrepreneur, what was it? And it could be something as simple as, I didn't like working in teams. I liked going home and doing it and inventing a new way to study, or I go to the library and want people to leave me alone, and that's the beginning of entrepreneurship. Whatever it might be, what was it? And we'll do in the same order again. Ebony, go first. Moments at Hopkins where you felt like an entrepreneur, seeds of it.
Well, I'm not sure that I felt like an entrepreneur. I think that I was pretty firm that I did not want to be an entrepreneur. But something that became a recurring theme in my life at Hopkins was being told no. And apparently I really don't like being told no. And I'm always going to find a way to do what I want to do. It's it's the difference between banging on a door, begging to be let in, when you can walk down the hall and another door will open with a slight tap. So I just really don't like being told no. And I think that fueled a lot of me needing to get up and do things myself.
Okay, so there is do something, because you could have easily joined a large a large firm, and there's a lot less no there because you're not pitching the firm. The firm already exists. Whereas with entrepreneurship, I know firsthand, you've got to call 300 potential clients to get 10, and there's a lot of no there. Whereas when you join Goldman Sachs, boy, everybody just bangs down the door to be your client. Wouldn't have joining the mainstream had been fewer no's than being an entrepreneur? Ebony, I'm saying, if you hated no, why did you become an entrepreneur?
Because I realized that I was asking for permission and asking for opportunities instead of creating them and looking for them myself.
Interesting. I think that's a great answer. David, same question. You went to also a famous university, very mainstream. People race on campus to hire all of us for their mainstream jobs. What were the moments at Harvard that made you feel like a potential entrepreneur, that made you different from everybody who's about to join consulting and iBanking?
Yeah, that's actually my moment definitely happened before I got to Harvard, but my truth evolved over the course of being at Harvard. So even when I was a kid, like I tell people, like I'm going to own my own business someday. Like it's going to be a dry cleaner. It's going to be a corner store. It's going to there was always going to be me owning a business, learning how to operate that business. That's just innately the way that I think as a person. But there's also the harsh reality of life and the realization that starting a business can be a very privileged opportunity, in the sense that you have to have access to certain materials and certain networks. And so, I actually made the choice to join the establishment post graduation. So I interned at Microsoft all the way through college and then went to join Microsoft. But the whole time, my whole mentality was learn as much as I can, earn as much as I can, and bring it back to the nest. And specifically, I knew that I wanted to work at Microsoft, earn a great salary, learn a bunch of skills, grow my network, and come back to Cleveland, my hometown, and build a company there. And so that's what I set my sights on doing, much like I set my sights on going off to MIT for the summer program or going to Harvard. And, at the time when I was thinking about going to Harvard, originally studying something entirely different, human genetics, I set my sights on this idea that I would someday have enough to where I could, start this company and start to create opportunity for people like myself.
Interesting. So passion even before it. It sounds like both of you had something deep down, and the mainstream of Hopkins and Harvard didn't convince you to give that up. Toshi, similar story, or different in the sense that you're at a mainstream place. You could have. UPenn seems to have an underground tunnel to Wall Street, and yet you didn't follow that. When were the seeds of entrepreneurship clear at UPenn?
Yeah, I think my experience was pretty similar to Ebony's in that I previously didn't view myself as an entrepreneur or someone who had entrepreneurial instincts. I was never interested in entrepreneurship or in the idea of starting my own company, to be quite honest. And I really like stability. And starting your own company in the startup world is not a very uh, stable thing to do. It's very tumultuous, and there are ups and downs literally every single day. But I think there are two characteristics that I have always displayed that um, kind of lend themselves to being a good entrepreneur, or are even necessary um, for you to be successful in your entrepreneurial journey. And the first is the fact that I have always had very eclectic and diverse interests. And so I actually chose an international relations major in college because um, of its interdisciplinary nature. With IR, I was taking history classes, political science classes, econ classes, and I love the opportunity to explore all of these different subject matters that I wouldn't be able to explore if I just did like history or English, whatever it may be. Um, and, similarly, I have like quantitative interests, but I also love writing, and I have social impact interests, but like the idea of the corporate world was always, very appealing to me. And so um, I've always had like a diverse set of interests, and how that translates into the startup world is that, when you're starting your own company, you're wearing many hats. I mean, on any given day, I am PR, I am tech, I am uh, our marketer, I am doing all of these very different things. But because I've always been someone who's had very different interests, that journey has been very natural for me and very easy for me to adapt to. Secondly, I think that the characteristic that I have displayed previously that lended itself uh, or that helped me in this entrepreneurial journey is the fact that um, I actively seek out challenges, and I actively put myself in positions that make me uncomfortable. Um, an example of that is, during my time at Disney, I was technically doing finance, but I was the person within the organization that took on our analytics and data science work. Why? Because I thought it was interesting and it really stretched me beyond my capacity, which ultimately like led me to you include, but I think I'll share that a little bit down the line. But again, similarly in the entrepreneur journey, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you have to kind of like seek out opportunities, or at least being comfortable with being in situations that make you uncomfortable, because you're often doing something that you've never done before. So to wrap it up, I didn't think I had no desire to be an entrepreneur, but I've now learned that I've had several characteristics that allow me to be a good entrepreneur.
There is. It sounds like from all three of you, there was something deep in the DNA. There was something deep in your desire, even if you didn't think it. That leads to the next point, which is, okay, there's some entrepreneurial flame burning inside of you, but you didn't quit college to do that. You didn't quit jobs to do that until a certain moment in time. There was a moment in time that you said, okay, enough's enough, I'm doing it. Can each of you speak to what that moment, what that materiality was of, okay, it's now time to leave the mainstream? Was it the idea itself? Was it the idea plus another entrepreneur that said, let's do this together? Was it a moment in time that said, this idea is now or never? What makes you move from the desire to be an entrepreneur to actually doing the company? Ebony, you start first, please.
So I also like stability. I don't like things changing too much on me. And I had a lot of, in the 10 years previous, I had a lot of job instability. I was a housewife for a while. And I realized that the traditional job market will not offer me stability in the way that I had hoped. And so I would have to create that for myself. And after I was working as a temp one day, and I had reached the ceiling on how much they were willing to pay, because they had a budget and they're not going to pay you above, the threshold. And so I realized this can't keep happening to me. I'm tired of it. So I started my company after surprisingly a failed freelance assignment. They had canceled the project midway, and I took that $800 that I earned from it, and I went straight to start my company and start the bank account. I mean, I didn't have much in the bank account, but it was important because I knew that if I work at it for a while, I'll be able to build a place to go. And so when I'm ready to leave, because right now I am juggling a full-time job and my business, but when I'm ready to leave, I'll have a place to go. And no one can take that away from me if I've created it and I've nurtured it and I've maintained it.
And what advice would you have to aspiring entrepreneurs for the wrong time to jump ship? When you look back, is there a moment where you're like, I know a lot of people out there have passion to be entrepreneurs, but maybe they should all just start now? Is there a wrong time to be an entrepreneur?
Well, I wouldn't say wrong. I would say not optimal. So
Okay.
it's not optimal to start your business after without at least 6 to 12 month savings, which sounds like a lot of money when you don't have any. But starting with money in the bank so that you can push your energy into it is a smarter idea than just jumping into it. Sometimes you don't have a choice and you have to, but having a plan, because the thing is when you're an entrepreneur and you're worried about getting, the next paycheck, you don't make sound decisions all the time. You're going to be in a position where you're doing things out of desperation, and that can take you off your path. And so if you don't need the money in that way, you make smart decisions. You won't get distracted by other things that, are only temporary fixes.
I'm gonna go to Toshi this time just to change up the order. That moment that it was time to actually, you didn't want to be an entrepreneur. There was something in your deep inside you that wanted that freedom. What made it the right moment when the right moment came? What tipped you?
Yeah, I think it was a number of things. So to give you all a little bit of background of how You Include started, I was doing a data analytics boot camp at USC, which is the University of Southern California here in Los Angeles. And I was just doing a final project about women in the workforce and doing it to the best of my ability because that's just who I am, and because I really liked I cared about the topic, and I found it to be really interesting. That ended up blossoming into a product that we built that detects gender bias language and job descriptions. Someone from this national organization heard about our project, saw our presentation, decided to nominate us for this national competition, and we won the competition. And from there, after the win and all of the kind of press that we received, we recognized that there was a huge need for this product. Um, and the response that we received was overwhelmingly positive. And at that point, we made the decision to expand our product to be able to identify bias language against other marginalized groups. That was really important to us. At that point, though, I still hadn't decided to leave my full-time role at the Walt Disney Company. I wasn't fully convinced yet, and to be honest, I was filled with so much fear. Um, and I kept working at Disney, but at that point in my career, I was also really kind of getting um, a little bit dissatisfied with my role, and I knew that I kind of uh, learned everything I could learn in that role. Um, so I knew it was time for a move, but I didn't know whether I wanted that move to be jumping into the startup journey full time or finding another corporate job again for stability. And we this is a few months after the competition win and all the responses that we got. We had built a kind of a board of advisors who are really, reputable people within their respective industries who were very ready to, or who are already backing what we were doing at You Include. And so that gave me the confidence to know and understand that what we were doing is actually meaningful, so much so that other people who are very busy and very well respected in their fields are willing to support us. So that was the kind of encouragement and yeah, the encouragement that I needed to make that decision to ultimately leave Disney. But even then, I had a little bit of apprehension, and I think what really made helped me make that decision is recognizing that corporate will always be there, but the startup experience may not always be there. You know what I'm saying? Like I can always go back to Disney or Google or Microsoft or whatever it may be. Like those companies aren't going anywhere, but this experience is very unique, and um, this may be the only chance that I have to build something like this that's very relevant and specific to where we are right now socially. Um, or very relevant to what we're going through socially, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's why I decided to leave, because I knew that I could always go back to corporate if I needed to if this failed. And then I also thought about like what I would regret in the future, like 10 years from now. Will I regret not pursuing the startup, or um, would I regret staying at Disney? And I knew that or would I regret leaving Disney? Sorry. And I knew that 100% I would regret it if I did not pursue the startup. And so that is what propelled me to leave.
David, what was your moment?
Uh, I think my moment really came probably 3 years into my role at Microsoft, where I sort of saw the complacency sitting in, and sort of starting to see that I could earn very well and live what on paper would be a very fulfilled life without really ever needing to grow very much. And that didn't sit well with me, just in the type of person I am and the way that I approach my life. And so I started by looking at opportunities to be an entrepreneur at Microsoft and to build things using Microsoft's resources, and really enjoyed doing that, but also ran into the challenge that at Microsoft, the way decisions are made are not based on what opportunity there is to build something. It's about what opportunity is already in the install base. And so it's like, if it doesn't have $1 billion install base, it's not going to last more than 6 months at Microsoft. They don't incubate things, which is, in some ways good for them, right? It's worked out for them. But in other ways, they miss boats, like the mobile movement, because they couldn't incubate. And so I got to a point where I was like, all right, I can't be in an environment trying to build something where it's not based on the opportunity ahead, but like only the opportunity what's in front of me. And so I started to look at startups and started to think about joining a startup. When I went to join one, realized that building someone else's vision wasn't the same as building your own. And just got into a mode of, hey, I know I want to have an impact on learning. I know that trying to do it within Microsoft didn't work out. I know that learning how to build a company, the only real way to do it is to do it after working at a startup for a while. And so when COVID happened and education was completely uprooted, I saw that as the real opportunity to enter the education technology market. I saw it as a unique time period for ed tech, and had to ask the same question that Tasha just talked about, which is this the moment that I have to decide between whether I regret leaving this company that pays me a salary, or would I regret not pursuing the opportunity that's in front of me? And truth of the matter was, it was very clear. Like when I asked that question, just plain point blank to myself, it was like I would regret further not having taken the chance, not having made the leap. Now making the leap is non-trivial still, right? I mean, I was dating someone seriously at the time who has since become my fiance, who I had to like say, hey, look, we have this lifestyle we're really comfortable with. We won't be able to afford it anymore, right? At least for a short period of time. And there are a lot of steps that need to be made, and even just like family expectations and so forth that even some shame in like leaving a high paying job to be broke effectively, right? That I had to overcome. But even with all of those things, the answer was still, you have to do this, right? Like it was like just no questions asked. You need to take this chance, and if you fail at it, there's always opportunity around the corner. It may not be it may be the same complacent type of role that you had at Microsoft, but you're not going to be hungry, right? You're not going to starve, and so you have that safety net. But I have to say, I have to add to that. Now being a little over a year into my founder journey, um, it had to be a really bad situation for me to go back to corporate, to be quite honest. Like even to the point of, I already know that when my company gets to a certain point, God willing, it grows to a certain point, I don't want to be the one leading it. Like I don't want to be the Mark Zuckerberg founder, like that stays with it through to tens of thousands of employees. I don't have interest in that. I want to build it to a point and bring in folks who want to run a big corp, who want to create all of that bureaucracy and structure. I have no interest in existing in those structures anymore, where the complacency is just like commonplace. And I want to be in a growth type of business constantly, and that's something I've learned in the last year, that I'm also just like able to share as an experience. Is if you're itching and your gut is telling you to try something, there's probably a good reason. There's probably something you can't really verbalize about your lived experience, that you'll be able to verbalize later, but you're only going to be able to do that if you take the leap, if you take the chance. And I'm really grateful that my partner didn't quit me when I quit my job, because she could have, and that we're still rolling. And also really grateful that I had the support around me, from all of my mentors from Minds Matter and beyond, that really supported the move, and with their time, with their energy, with their pocketbooks, the whole nine. So definitely worked out.
And just a reminder to our audience that we're going to please start putting your questions in the chat. We're going to have two more questions for our panelists. The first is we're going to talk about continuing education, what they did after college that prepped them for being an entrepreneur. And the final question will be for them to give the elevator pitch for their startup, and back up what inspired them, obviously, is what the startup does. So we're going to hear the elevator pitch. So first question, around the horn, we'll go in different order. Toshi, then David, then Ebony. What did you learn after college? I think some of you took coding classes, et cetera, data analytics. Maybe you can give our audience some tips on how to keep learning even after you're out of college. And sometimes those colleges are liberal arts and don't offer a lot of tech. What's the tip for learning after college? Go ahead, Toshi.
Sure. So after college, like I mentioned, I was doing finance and strategy at Disney, but I fell into data analytics and I really loved it. And I loved it so much that I decided that I wanted to learn more about it in a more traditional, like academic setting. So I did a quick Google search, and the first thing I found was the data analytics program at USC School of Engineering. I asked my director at the point to sponsor me in taking that course, because the course was very expensive. And because he saw that I had a passion for it and aptitude for it, he was very willing to agree to support me in that journey from a financial perspective. So I think the key here is to kind of just always continue being curious, continue putting yourself in situations that you are learning new things, and express your interests as well to other people so that um, they can support you in your journey, however uh, in any way. So like in my case, it was my director supporting me financially. Um, what was the other part of the question?
I was just saying, uh, we're gonna have the pitch in a second, but it was the continued education.
Right.
What resources are out there for people to add to what they learned in college, so that they're truly ready for entrepreneurship? What you took advantage of?
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, I personally took advantage of that data analytics course, and that's
Right.
where I also learned how to code. I learned a number of coding languages, some that I am really strong in and some that I don't really care for. But I will say that learning that has helped me greatly in my entrepreneurial journey, because we have to build a lot of aspects of our product and of our website. And because I took that coding class, I can do all of that work by myself. I will admit that some things are beyond my level of understanding. Some things are very advanced, and I just don't have the knowledge to, like, the coding knowledge to write the code for more advanced products. And so those things need to be outsourced. But because I have the foundational knowledge, it's very easy for me to like go into the code and make minor changes if I need to, which becomes really important when you're trying to move quickly. Um, so yeah, coding, learning how to code was very, very valuable for me. I always say that one of the best things I did for myself was just give myself the opportunity to explore, and not be confined to timelines that I give myself. Um, I tend to be someone who, I mean, I will say I'm pretty type A, and I need plans. Like I need a roadmap. I need to know what I'm doing at every year of my life and what the goal is in each of those years. But when I graduated college, I guess a couple years after graduating college, I kind of let go of all of those expectations and let myself follow my natural curiosities. And didn't fall into the trap of saying like, okay, after 2 years I have to do X, Y, Z, and then like leave Disney and then go to another company and go to business school, whatever it may be. I kind of just let things roll. And I think that was really beneficial for me because I fell into things that I wouldn't have mapped out for myself. Like if I made my own roadmap, I never would have inserted data analytics and coding into that roadmap. Um, or entrepreneurship, if I'm just being honest. But because I let go of all those expectations and let go of the need to have every year of my life outlined, I allowed myself to um, walk into experiences that were very foreign, very uncomfortable, but have proved to be so, so valuable. And now I am on a journey that, again, I would never have mapped out for myself, but I cannot imagine doing anything else.
Toshi,
So,
that's a great response to this. I do want to have time for each of you to talk about your business, and we've got chat questions coming in. Ebony, what's the 1 minute pitch about what your firm does?
So I run a media consulting company that focuses on better media representation and inclusion. And we do that through editorial practices and principles to help people create and revise media that better represents the people that they wish to serve.
David, what's your 1 minute pitch?
Yeah.
It's hard.
My company, yeah, no, I'm happy to do it. My company builds software to help professors build really engaging, multimedia rich courses that they can teach at any institution. And so it gives them ownership back over the course outside of the learning management system. In addition to that, it gives them the opportunity to sell their learning materials. So as classes go digital, the need for digital learning materials is increasing. and the production of those materials can be democratized. Instead of publishers holding all the keys to the best learning materials as they have in generations past, we're actually giving that power back to the educators themselves and providing a way for them to monetize.
That sounds quite strong. And Toshi, what's your 1 minute pitch for your company?
All right, I'll be quick. You Include is a product that uses machine learning algorithms to identify implicitly biased language and recruitment material that is deterring for several marginalized groups. So the goal is to identify that language, provide recruiters and employers with language that is more inviting for marginalized groups, and by marginalized groups I mean women, people of color, people with disabilities, so on and so forth, so that they diversify their applicant pool and increase workplace diversity.
And now we have 3 questions building up, so let's do them. I won't ask everybody to answer every one of them, but first, are you guys this will all go around the horn. Quick question: are you guys solo founders, or did you partner with somebody? David?
Partnered, but now solo.
Okay.
Lesson learned.
Okay, lesson learned. Ebony?
Partnered, but I do the primary work.
Okay, and Toshi?
I'm partnered. I have 2 co-founders.
David, what are the lessons for picking a partner? Clearly, you've learned it the hard way.
Make sure that the person that you're picking really understands what it means to start a venture-backed startup. It's different than starting a small business, and it's different than running a nonprofit or any other type of organization. It has some unique characteristics and a very, very high risk profile. And if someone's not comfortable with that, it will come to light eventually.
Ebony, what's the next big milestone? I'm going to go around the horn on this one, all 3. Ebony, next big milestone for your firm.
My next big milestone would be landing a 6-figure contract, corporate contract.
And Toshi, what's your next big milestone? By the way, touch wood for all of us on that one. Toshi, what's your next big milestone?
My next big milestone will probably be joining an accelerator program.
Okay. David, I think you just ended the accelerator program. Is that right? What's your next big milestone program?
Yeah, I just finished up an accelerator. My next big milestone is a successful pilot. So I have 2 pilot agreements in play. And so launching those pilots and seeing them through and making those clients happy is a big deal for me.
We've got a great, thoughtful question about entrepreneurship that came through. I do want to go around the horn on this one. I'll just start with David. Do you have trouble with time management? I certainly do, because when you're an entrepreneur, your to-do list is everything. I could be marketing right now. I could be changing my algorithms, whatever. Who knows what to do? David, how do you handle time management?
Yeah, I miss having a department to handle the things I don't know how to do. That was really nice about corporate. But being an entrepreneur, I mean, time management is hard. I think the one thing that I would say about it is, and I've been really strict on it, and it's been really helpful for health, is you have to make time for the people you care about. They are the way to recharge your batteries, and like is really, really important. The weeks where I go without seeing my family or talking to my sister or my nieces or nephews really take a lot out of me. The weeks where I make that time, I can get 20 to 30% increase efficiency out of myself. Like, so, you know, it may sound counterintuitive to carve out time for things that aren't work, but it 100% matters.
That's a great answer. Ebony, how do you handle the time management issue?
Well, with ADHD and executive function issues, I have to write a lot of things down. I set a lot of reminders. I have alarms going off all the time. But I think the most important thing is to always add a time buffer, and a nice healthy one. And in conjunction with that, you really have to manage expectations. You got to let people know what's possible and be honest with yourself and other people about what isn't.
Another great one. Toshi, how do you handle the time management issue? I think it's a great question.
Yeah, I kind of just set 2 big goals that I need to accomplish in a day, and focus on those things. Everything else is secondary.
Perfect. We're going to end with a nostalgic question. What's your greatest memory, your fondest memory of your Minds Matter moment, time? Go ahead, David.
My greatest memory, it's it probably is when I was in Boston, and like two or three other folks were in Boston and other programs, and we got enough free time to like see each other in a different place. And like, most of us hadn't left Cleveland very much before then, and it was just like, it was the moment where like leaving and doing something other than what was considered status quo for my peers and myself felt real. It felt tangible. It didn't feel like this, maybe kinda type of thing. I could see myself outside of that bubble, and like I just remember walking Harvard Square, and it changed everything, truly.
Toshi, what was your fondest memory?
I don't know that I have one memory in particular, but definitely just being able to build relationships with my fellow um, Minds Matter mentees.
That's a nice memory in and of itself. And Ebony, we'll end this with your Minds Matter nostalgia moment.
They took us to play laser tag one day.
Ha, that's great. I'm glad we did that. I'm glad we had budget for that. We certainly didn't have a budget for that when I was there. We're at 3:50 by my clock. That is the end of our session. Leanne, do you want to take it from here? Thank you all. Great questions. I agree with everything you said about entrepreneurship. And let's not forget that entrepreneurship is really hard. And the highs are higher, but the lows are lower. And it can be terribly frustrating. I know that firsthand. I'm so glad that in some way Minds Matter was a small part of your inspiration to start something on your own. Thank you all. Thank you, panelists.